First they're going to go to Tavern on the Green, and then they're going to go later to the Limelight to see if they can find Maria. When they get to Tavern on the Green, Agent 9 says that he's going to go and ask around and see if he can find out some information about these Bear Jones parties and see if he can find where he can get a pass. Agent 9 talks to one of the waiters. The waiters hands him a pass. Everybody seems to have them. Agent 9 notices that people listen to the Sender show on the radio, and he's told that there's even Bear Jones parties every Wednesday night at Tavern on the Green. Tonight just so happens to be a Limelight party, and it's called Disco Church. They get a table, and they discuss the plan for tonight. Tonight, all four of them will go to the Limelight, and they will look for Maria. They won't make any. They don't want to be noticed by Brian or Phil because of what the Colonel told them. And then tomorrow they're going to go to Washington, D.C. It took them quite a while to drive to New York, and amazing as it may seem, Agent 9's telephone rings, and it's Dr. Max. Agent 9 says that he's amazed that that Max has arrived in Florida so soon, but it only takes an hour and a half by airplane, and Max has already went immediately to the records room and has gotten the information. Max says he just went to the county police department and they allowed him to look at the preliminary investigation, which is that the man died of a knife wound. They never really found out if it was suicide or if it was done, so the case is still open, and that the suspects are a Club Babalu, who are some kind of a cult from Atlantis that believe in reincarnation, and that some of the statements say that the man's, who is a high priest, spirit is now come back again in the form of the little child. It's no wonder Robin wanted to get away from this group, because they actually believe that the young girl is some kind of a political figure from a lost continent. Agent 9 is overheard saying this by Linda and Michael and Robin, and they met. Linda mentions that she's heard of such reincarnation, and the Dalai Lama is like that, where they go out and look for a conception that occurred at his time of death. Michael then adds that him and Robin only came together one time, and it was that one time at the night of the festival. Before then, at their honeymoon on the Indian reservation, Robin was afraid that somebody might come in the teepee, and the Indians were awake all night drumming, so it wasn't until the night of the festival. And then after that night, Michael made such a to-do about the vision that Robin was really turned off to being involved anymore. Robin's a little spooked out by the story of the man, and she says that was one of the main factors of why she left the cult and wanted to give the baby up for adoption. And Michael seems to understand at this point, and they start getting back together. Agent 9 says that they're going to go to Limelight. In a few hours, they're really just having dinner now, and they're going to get to the bottom of this Babalu cult also. He says that he knows somewhat about the Club Babalu from when it was on the Ricky Ricardo show, and it was a group in Cuba and all the Caribbean islands, and he knows that they extend on most of the coastlines, and that it seems like they could be a group of boat people who did colonize the world maybe 25,000 years ago, when the last remnant of Atlantis was finally destroyed, according to Plato's Chronicles. Before leaving the park, they have a couple hours before the Limelight starts, so they go for a walk, and Agent 9 and Linda talk about their Columbia University student days, and Linda says she remembers 9 when he used to be Matthew, and she says that he's very obsessive now, and he seems to believe his own strategies when it comes to prosecuting people. She says that can be very dangerous, and she calls him Matthew and sees if she can bring him back into a less vindictive, gentler world. When they finally do get to the Limelight, there's a line going around the block, and Linda's car service drops them off, and they have to wait on a long line. They came early, and the pass says it's good only until 11 o'clock, but the line is quite long, and it moves very slowly as VIP and special guests get in. When they finally get to near the door at the front of the line, they notice there's a white Ford Tempo, which is one of the first of its kind, considering they were just it's a new aerodynamic computerized front wheel Ford, which Ford introduced as a prototype for the future cars, and they just came out in this year, 1984. And on it there's a big gold angel on the hood, which Agent 9 recognizes as similar to the one in the movie The Wild One. And then behind it's a black Harley-Davidson motorcycle, somewhat of a classic, and Agent 9 asks the door people whose vehicles these are. They're parked so specially in front, and he finds that one belongs to Forbes, the Forbes magazine, who came in with Brian Love on the back, and the white car belongs to Phil and Baird Jones. And now Agent 9 knows that he's going to see, once again, Phil. When they finally get in the club, they split up, and inside's a great stage, and there's Phil, Brian, Lenny on string bass, and the theme of the party is for a Brooklyn rabbi who people say is the King Messiah. Agent 9, who has been drinking during the day and now drank a little here, starts to get dizzy and sick. He thinks maybe somebody put something in his drink, which is a problem that's been happening in the New York area with designer drugs and people going to clubs and having this group organization, NORML, National Organization for the Legalization of Marijuana, they go around and they put this drug's called ecstasy in people's drinks who aren't suspecting, trying to get them really intoxicated and perhaps take advantage of them and sell them marijuana, which is usually laced with more designer drugs. And Agent 9 starts seeing all the Jewish men from Brooklyn who all have beards, and he starts thinking that he's surrounded by Phils, because Phil has that appearance also. Agent 9 gets the spins, and he's just about ready to fall down. And he sits down and puts his head back on a chair, and he looks up, and then he sees on the ceiling the great red dragon. The red dragon is depicted as the constellation Draco, and it is surrounded by a great chain. The great chain is the direction that the axis points to during its path through the stars. And he notices that in this picture the red dragon looks as though it's been chained in a great chain, looking like a chained bottomless pit. Agent 9 remembers this red dragon from his days in Vietnam, and the dragon that's painted is identical to the same dragon that he was familiar with when he was in Southeast Asia. Lucky, the others come over and find Agent 9 sick, and Linda helps him up, and Linda decides to take him home and leave Michael and Robin to look for Maria. So Agent 9 and Linda leave the club. The car service picks him up and is giving them a ride to the Waldorf, and they discuss what happened in the club, and Agent 9 says that he feels, and so does Linda agree, that Robin has seen Maria, and that she didn't want to expose her, and that Robin was really just waiting for this opportunity so she could talk to Maria without having Agent 9 or Linda know who Maria was. They dropped off at the Waldorf, and they get a room, and they go upstairs to the room where Agent 9 is starting to recuperate from his ordeal over at the Limelight, and he's still becoming his obsessive self. In the room, Linda is putting a cold, wet cloth on Agent 9's head to try to get his headache to go away, when there's a knock on the door. The door opens, and it's Robin, Michael, and they have a little baby, Christina, with them. It seems as though it was right. Maria was just waiting for the right opportunity to give the child back to its parents. Little Christina gives Agent 9 a wrapped up a screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, and a short note from Brian Love. Agent 9 reads the note, which basically says, "Thou shalt beat thy sword into a tool, and man shall make war against man no more." And then it says peace, and it's actually signed Phil. Agent 9 realizes that the reason he was chosen to go on this case was because of what happened between him and Phil during that famous case of the 9 oil well stocks. Christina then recites a poem which goes, "When it's time for the caterpillars to turn into butterflies, does it really matter which one turns first?" Well, coming up in this series, the epic, we answer the question, who are the Babalu? We get to find out what Max has discovered in Florida. Then we also have Excalibur, which tells about the Phillips head screwdriver and why they call it Excalibur, the return of the great sword now beat into a tool. We have Red Dragon, which is a story of Vietnam, and really Ho Chi Minh, who really assumed the title of the Red Dragon, and Brian's special mission that has got him this secret file. There's a Hayden Planetarium show which shows in detail exactly what the movements are of all the planets and stars, and it goes back to the birth of Christ and what the Star of Bethlehem was, and compares it to the planetary alignment of 1982, which gave us this second greatest story ever told. The Texas oil well mine tells how Agent 9 got his name, and it's an intriguing story about a Texas double-dealing oil well deal that went to court, and where Phil took a civil complaint against an oil well double dealer, and Phil wanted to enact legislation that would make any time somebody double dealt have to be filed with the Security Exchange. The Drunken Drug Lab actually tells a story about a conspiracy to make drugs, designer drugs they call them, like LSD and ecstasy and all these, there's so many names, and actually get the people hooked on them that drink alcohol by putting it into alcohol first, and then the people don't get a kind of a craving for it that way. Yeah, it's a real problem at the club scene in New York. Imagine is a story about the superstardom and what a superstar really is, as told from the Imagine Circle and at Strawberry Fields, and using a lot of dialogue from songs, popular songs, particularly Beatles songs. And Philapolis is the United Nations being renamed. The United Nations doesn't really have a name. Like the United States is called America. The United Nations doesn't really have a name yet, and this is a proposal after the calendar is accepted to make the United Nations be the city called the City of Love, and that's Philapolis, like the Metropolis and other popular names like that. This is the Opolis, and with the Phil meaning love. And it tells the story about the adoption of the United Nations calendar, and a lot of good dialogues between the different dignitaries. Well, I hope to be able to present all these other chapters of the epic in storybook form, but they're now, available in book form for people that like to read, which you'll find go much more into detail than a storybook, of course. But even this story, which is the case of the Morning Star, I suggest that it be read in its entirety for the detail continent. Well, just ask me about the books or more storyboards, and that'll be that. Okay, we're going to sign off for now, and this is Phil. Maybe I'll see you by the Hans Christian Andersen statue over in Central Park, where I might be telling the story and showing and doing some sketches of the new coming stories, considering I have about 8 years worth of drawings left. And that'll take us well into the new age.